Everyone knows the name Babylon. It shows up in history books, movies, even music, a name echoed in apocalyptic prophecies and hip-hop lyrics. It's become a symbol of power, excess, and collapse, a byword for arrogance and inevitable ruin. But here's what almost no one realizes. Babylon didn't just rule the ancient world, it designed the modern one. Its logic is embedded in the grid of your streets, the logic of your clock, the very concept of a rule. And standing here today, the most shocking part isn't what's left. The fragmented bricks, the reconstructed walls. It's how quiet it is. The silence where there was once the din of 200,000 lives. 1. The city that redefined human life. Before Babylon, human life was scattered. Small groups, temporary settlements, fortified towns for the elite, mud huts for the rest. Nothing permanent on such a scale, with such intention. Babylon changed that. Under Hammurabi, then Nebuchadnezzar, it became an operating system for civilization. This city helped turn chaos into structure, streets into systems, people into citizens. It was a functional machine. Planned neighborhoods, standardized building, administrative bureaucracy. Here's the part most people don't know. Babylon wasn't famous because it was big. It was famous because it worked. It was reliable, predictable, and astonishingly complex. Rules, administration, planning, a census, tax records, municipal governance. Things we now take for granted as the bedrock of urban life. The modern city didn't start in Europe. It started here in the Mesopotamian dust, with the world's first true metropolis. 2. Laws that still shape your life. Babylon believed something radical for its time. That laws should be written down, immutable, visible to all, and apply to everyone, from merchant to farmer, though not with equality we'd recognize. This idea sounds normal now, the rule of law. But back then, it was revolutionary. Justice was often the whim of the powerful. Disputes weren't settled by strength alone. They were settled by rules carved into stone. The Code of Hammurabi, 282 laws staring back at you, promising an eye for an eye. Here's the shock. Every modern legal system, courts, contracts, property rights, the idea of testimony and evidence, can trace part of its DNA back to this city, to the notion that society requires a public, written standard. And yet, most people will never visit it. They live by its legacy, but will never stand before its ghost. And what comes next makes Babylon even harder to understand, because its greatest symbol might be a mirage. 3. The wonder that may have never existed. Babylon is famously linked to one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, the Hanging Gardens. Terraces of green rising from the desert, a cascading symphony of plants and engineering, an impossible oasis, a king's gift to a homesick queen. Here's the twist. No one is completely sure they ever existed. There are no clear remains, no definitive proof in Babylonian records, only passionate, later accounts by Greek historians who may never have visited. And that's what makes Babylon fascinating. It wasn't just a city of stone. It was a city of stories, a propaganda machine, a myth-making capital. A place where myth and reality blurred together, where reputation became its own kind of power, perhaps more enduring than brick. 4. Standing in silence. Today you can walk through Babylon and hear almost nothing. Just the wind over the Euphrates plain, a distant bird, your own footsteps on ancient processional ways. No crowds, no noise of markets or chariots. No sense of the overwhelming power it once held, the awe that struck foreign envoys and subject kings. That silence is shocking. It's a physical weight, because this was once the center of the world, a place diplomats feared, traders chased, and rivals envied. The New York, the Shanghai, the Rome of its day. The contrast is almost uncomfortable, a cognitive dissonance. History's loudest city now whispers, and you have to strain to hear it. If you're drawn to places that shape the world, but are rarely understood or visited, the silent stages where humanity's pivotal scenes were acted out, subscribe. This channel explores the stories behind the names everyone thinks they know. We go to the source and listen to the silence. 5. Why Babylon Fell. Babylon didn't fall because it failed. Its model was too successful. It fell because power shifted, geography changed, trade routes moved, empires rose elsewhere, Persia, then Greece, then Rome. Attention moved on. New capitals were built on new ideas, yet they all borrowed from the old. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Civilizations don't disappear when they collapse. Their walls can remain for centuries. They disappear when they're forgotten, when their story is overwritten by the next chapter. Babylon wasn't destroyed in a moment. It was sacked, then revived, then faded, slowly over 1,000 years, from metropolis to province, to village to memory. 6. Ideas that refuse to die. Even after Babylon declined, its ideas traveled. They were infectious. Urban planning. The very concept of a gridded, zoned city. Written law. Codification as control and promise. Timekeeping. Our 60-minute hour. Our 360-degree circle. Babylonian mathematics measuring our days. These concepts didn't vanish. They were copied, adapted, and reused. The Persians took them. Alexander the Great dreamed of making Babylon his capital. The Romans absorbed the administrative mindset. Empires came and went, but Babylon's blueprint survived. It's the shared software of civilization. That's the real legacy. Not walls, not towers, ideas. Invisible, durable, and still running. And this is where the story becomes personal. It stops being history and starts being a mirror. 7. Why this place feels unsettling. Standing in Babylon feels strange, not because it's dangerous, but because it forces a brutal, quiet realization. Even the most powerful societies can vanish, can become a footnote, a tourist site, a quiet field, while their ideas quietly shape the future in ways no one remembers to credit. It makes modern cities feel temporary, like scaffolding, fragile, their permanence, an illusion we agree to believe in. And that thought stays with you. It follows you home, into your own organized, lawful, clock-driven life. 8. Why almost no one comes here. Babylon isn't on most travel lists. It's complicated. It's in a region defined by modern conflict. The journey feels daunting, obscured by bureaucracy and decades of instability. It's overshadowed by headlines, not history. The narrative is one of contemporary struggle, which unintentionally mutes the ancient echo. People think of a modern nation, not the cradle of its invention. But that's what makes it powerful. The absence of the touristic veneer. There are no grand queues, no branded souvenirs mass-produced from the sacred clay. You are alone with the evidence. This isn't a tourist spectacle. It hasn't been polished for consumption. You see the raw archaeology, the unrestored sections, the ancient bricks stamped with Nebuchadnezzar's name lying in weathered piles, the brutal beauty of a 20th century Saddam Hussein palace looming incongruously on a tell, itself now a ruin atop the ruin. Its layers of power and decay, all visible at once. It's a reminder, raw and unadorned. You are not insulated from the passage of time by handrails and glossy placards. You are standing in the middle of its unfinished business. That civilization doesn't announce its beginnings. It just starts building. A settlement becomes a city, becomes an idea. And it doesn't warn us before it fades. There is no final siren. The last administrator simply closes a ledger. The last priest leaves the temple. The sand gathers in the gatehouse. The silence just gradually becomes the norm. Until one day, the world's greatest city is just a good place for shepherds to graze their flocks. Babylon may be quiet now. The wind may rule its processional way. But it never truly disappeared. It lives in our laws, in the courtrooms of every nation, our cities, in their grids and their administrative districts, our systems, in the time we track and the contracts we sign. It lives in the way the world works, the deep code beneath our modern surface. In the next episode, we're traveling to places where faith, death, and devotion collide, and uncovering stories few outsiders ever see. The living, breathing heart of ancient Mesopotamia. Subscribe, because this journey through Iraq has only just begun, and Babylon was just the first quiet word.